and welcome back to Sinews of War. In the previous episode we tried to regain dominance of the East Indies using our Admiral Doan, but he was unfortunately wiped out by an unusually fierce Spanish defence that lost our entire fleet in the eastern theatres. In Europe we made an attack on Naples, hoping to deny Spain some further territory using the force that formerly had taken over northern Italy. We went in, fought a battle, seeing as the Spanish were quite weak, and they were very easily defeated. Their low morale meant they really didn't hang around to fight at all and were very quickly wiped out. We then though faced a new war as the Ottoman Empire suddenly declared war on us with no warning. We lost some of our allies but managed to get them back as a result of this declaration, and we even actually made the first blow in the war, getting Venice to surrender. The Ottomans didn't really have an attack plan, it seemed. We moved on, since we weren't really facing any resistance, to attack Croatia as well with Vos. This time we were going to have to face an actual battle, but on the field our superior ranged abilities and then our superior numbers allowed us to overwhelm the Ottomans and take yet more of their territory. Now let's continue. We'll pass the last farm tomorrow, I'm told. Then it's all the endless world of the natives. Weeks of marching until we reach the point the company thinks is the centre of their tribe. You hear stories about how these natives can appear from anywhere, screaming like demons and mindlessly throwing themselves on you. I discussed the matter with Mr. Lodovics, and he tells me it's never actually happened. The evidence seems to rather suggest that these natives are not so driven by strategy in the way that men of Europe are. They will not fathom the notion of stopping us until it is too late. But conversely, they will not see the wisdom in surrendering either. There will be a measure of violence to all this, no doubt, but nothing like fighting the Spanish, so please don't worry. These people out in the west haven't even seen firearms. They'll scatter at a warning shot, no doubt. Mr. Lodovic seems to think so anyway, and I'm inclined to agree with him. He has rather a lot of advanced thinking about him. I know, I'll see if I can bring you back a trinket from one of the primitive villages. They all have these rather stylish little carvings sometimes. If you get bored of jewellery, I'm sure they would make quite the impact. And I'll bring a couple of their boys back to help in the stable. They can't be taught much, but they're very good with the animals, you know. So we've just finished our first real battle with the Ottomans, and the results were a resounding success, huge losses for the enemy, and a territorial gain for us, so that is fantastic news. So we can now see what the Ottomans have in the area. They have a stack here at Vienna, and a half stack over to the west in those mines, but the Polish appear to be putting a lot of pressure on them, all these stacks everywhere, and I'm just confirming here that Poland is actually at war with the Ottomans, so by the looks of things, they're going to overcome them, and that could leave the Ottomans with basically no frontline forces. So immediately I'm now thinking, can we start moving out and go and take more territory before the Ottomans can reinforce? I wanted to see if the Polish would go in for an alliance with me, since we're going to be sharing this joint project against the Ottomans, but they wouldn't take any of my deals, unfortunately. They're very hostile towards me. So now we're going to jump back to America, where Oustra is about to begin an expedition westward to take some more territory for the West India Company. There's a presumably lightly defended Indian tribe over there, so we can go and bring them down. We're not going to bring any allies into this war, of course. We'll simply march out and head right for them. On the way we encounter this Catholic priest from New Spain who's blocking the road and actually stops our army in its tracks, unfortunately, but we're going to be able to dodge around him. We can also see the settlement and its army. Quite a lot of troops actually, loads of Native American warriors, a unit type we haven't fought yet, superior to the Native American auxiliary warriors we've seen so far, so powerful melee units in there, but will it be enough to stop our now very powerful ranged army? The Polish make moves against the Ottomans here in Vienna, first besieging it with a small force, then there's this mysterious freeze, and then they appear to actually win a battle against them, allowing them to take the settlement. The Ottomans now in big trouble there by the looks of it against the Polish, who are already advancing against the Ottomans elsewhere. They try and take down that force near the mine and actually fail, interestingly. So it seems we may be about to enter a race with Poland to see who can take Ottoman territory first, since they're really out of forces. Their army near the mine moves into Poland further, so I don't know what they're planning to do, perhaps up to some shenanigans, but unlikely to put any major brakes on the campaign. The Pueblo nations, the tribe I'm currently attacking with Ustra, come to me asking for peace. No other factors involved in the deal, just a straight peace. I thought, well, maybe if there was some sort of concession we could get, but I noticed they were cheekily allied to the Ottoman Empire, which I thought was a little bit of a bad sign. But anyway, I couldn't make them my protectorate or anything, and there's no region trades we could do. So there wasn't really any large-scale concession I could get them to make, so the peace deal was thrown away. So back on the Ottoman front, it's time to move out against the Ottomans to try and take some territory before they can get any more troops together. So we're going to leave Croatia. I can recruit these really terrible mob units here, but at least it's a unique unit, so slightly interesting, but not going to bother for now. Going to stick with militia, going to be more useful as a garrison. Meanwhile, Vos is just going to advance on the Ottomans. First we take one of their forts, and now we can start heading towards Sarajevo. Can't reach it this turn, but no Ottomans in the area to stop me reaching it next time. There are lots of imams though, so they're really heavily converting the place to Islam, so we might have some public order issues as a result of that, but hoping it's not going to be too bad. Now, Gaiden, stuck back here in Venice, still can't come up to help because the public order situation is so bad right there. Even with that full stack inside and no tax, they're only just stable, so we're going to have to just keep him there for now. So Ustra can go and besiege the Pueblo nation's only settlement. The army inside is pretty big, but we have a small advantage on the balance bar, so we might as well just siege them out now because they only had 2 tons of supplies. Now Spain come to me with another outrageous peace deal. They keep trying to get peace for technology trades. I don't think they understand how this war has gone. They have completely lost. The Polish now seem to make indecisive moves, going back and forth, moving away from the Ottoman border and then moving back towards it with other forces. So I think they're just consolidating their strength, and the Ottomans don't do anything in their turn, nothing that we can see anyway. Now in America, Nassau is finally able to move out. He had been occupying the Cherokee territory to keep it under control, but now things have calmed down. I can put him somewhere, and I'm wondering where would be the best place, because we could be attacked from the north by the Iroquois nations, perhaps by Poland in the west, perhaps even the 13 colonies could be convinced to turn against us. There's so many different directions we could go that I decided to just sort of sit vaguely in the middle of our territory. The most likely case is that I'll go south because New Spain really hate us, and we're about to actually make that worse because I decided to try and take down this new Spanish Catholic priest. I failed, and they found out that I tried to do it, and that's going to reduce their relations with us now that they know we're being discreetly hostile against them. So you can see our relations are like minus 200 here, getting minus 50 from that assassination attempt. So pretty good chance that just in any turn they'll declare war on us. We'll just have to see. Some more rake action here in Europe as I'm just scouting out the Polish front against the Ottomans to see what they're up to. Meanwhile, Vos can move on to attack Sarajevo here. There's a couple of units inside, it's just some scrappy mob, and they are quite willing to surrender to Vos's professional army as it approaches. So, yet another settlement taken from the Ottomans. This has been an incredibly cheeky campaign. I don't know where it's going to end, and we're just going to keep going until they stop us from taking their empire piece by piece.
Oczywiście odrzucamy ich propozycję sojuszu bez zastanowienia. Nasz dzielny lud dał z siebie wszystko, aby uratować Europę przed tureckimi diabłami. Mimo to czeka na nas jeszcze większe niebezpieczeństwo. Są nim właśnie oferujący nam przyjaźń przebiegli Holendrzy. Nie przyszli nam pomóc, lecz wykorzystać. Sprawić, by ciężka praca naszych ludzi przyniosła zyski chciwemu imperium, nie nam. Ufam im mniej niż sułtanowi z mieczem ukrytym za plecami. Ci, którzy uważają Holendrów za przyjaciół, są zwyczajnymi, uśmiechniętymi głupcami, niezdolnymi do zauważenia stryczka zacieniającego się wokół ich gardeł. Musimy zrobić wszystko w naszej mocy, żeby zapobiec zagrabieniu osmańskich ziem przez niewłaściwe ręce. Jeśli nam się to nie uda, to pozostanie nam tylko jedno.
To press our advantage against the Ottomans, Vos is going to move out, leaving behind a somewhat stable Bosnia, in order to firstly go and take down that one Ottoman unit that's just standing there defiantly in our territory. So we move over, they don't even retreat, it's a single unit of Bosniaks. We can auto-resolve them away, taking unusually high casualties, but nothing too bad in absolute terms. So that got rid of them. There's another single unit on the border, and we might as well march that way. Now I decided to deploy my navy against the Ottomans to see what we could do. So we're going to bring the navy out of Marseille and just first towards the Ottoman side of the Mediterranean, just seeing what we can see. And as I come down here to Greece, we found an Ottoman trade route, and that's worth many thousands per turn, so I thought we might as well stop here and start raiding it. That's going to earn us a couple of thousand a turn, and that's going to be a very nice indeed, denying it to the Ottomans, giving it to us, making us very rich. Our income is through the roof right now. The Polish don't continue their offensive against the Ottomans, it seems. Their units scatter all over the place, so it's not clear what their plan actually is. And the Ottomans just take a very long time doing nothing. It's a famous glitch in Empire Total War that the Ottomans take ages to do their turn and very rarely actually do anything with it. So now the Pueblo nations are sallying out against Oustra. Curiously, they have an advantage on the balance bar, even though we had the advantage when we first arrived. But whatever the case, we're going to have to fight this fight. The enemy army absolutely packed with melee troops, a few bowmen and one gun cav unit, but overall we can expect a melee to break out if we can't rout the enemy before they reach our lines, which is what we always want to happen. So I've set up with a line of musketmen. We've got trenches set up, although that won't be terribly important for this particular fight. The enemy army is mostly hidden, and they're going to be mostly hidden for most of their advance, so we can only see a few units who don't have the same hiding abilities. That of course does vaguely indicate the position of their main line. We can guess it's somewhere on either side of the units we can see, and of course the units we can see are going to take a pounding from our artillery. We've got artillery on top of a hill behind our line, so nice line of sight on everything as the enemy advance. Their gun cav seem to come out ahead of their units to give us a volley, but they're not going to hang around. Our return volley is going to drive them away. So that's a fantastic start. Their first volley probably didn't do all that much anyway because we had the trenches, so that's lovely. The enemy actually surprised me though, appearing on my left flank all of a sudden. As they come out of hiding, I didn't realise just how close they were and how wide their formation was. So these bowmen are going to get some sneaky volleys onto these dragoons as they try and reform further back, but not far back enough. So I'm going to have to come in and start microing these guys to just charge through the bowmen. Meanwhile, the enemy are going to be doing infantry charges right along my line. So first we have armed tribesmen coming in, the weakest unit in the enemy's army, and you can see there's just a firework display coming from our lines as we try and gun these guys down. They're getting pretty damn close though. They seem to perform better than armed auxiliaries, but luckily for me they retreat at the last second thanks to their poor morale. They are going to come back pretty soon though. On the flanks, battle starting to break out, my irregulars firing at the enemy. On the right flank, a similar situation to the left flank, where both sides scrambling to reform when they realised how close they were to each other when everyone came out of hiding. The tribesmen trying again there with a charge and failing, but here come the Native American warriors, the mainline infantry unit for the Native American tribes, much more powerful than those tribesmen, and these guys can reach the line. They've got plenty of morale, they're still eager. The AI is screwing them up by giving them weird orders right in front of our men, so not doing them any favours whatsoever, but if they want to engage they can. We cannot rout them before they reach the line. Their morale is too good, and you can see along other parts of the line they are being successful in getting into combat. So here men just ploughing into our lines, going in between the trenches there and up and over the trenches when they're there. And our troops now must struggle in melee. We've got all of the bayonet upgrades, so our melee skills are going to be better than the average light infantry unit. Here on the flank our irregulars forced to fight in melee as well, while my cavalry are just ploughing through those bowmen. The bowmen trying to escape by the looks of it, but they're going to struggle of course against cavalry, so that's going okay. But the infantry fight in the centre, well, you can tell just from the look of it what's happening here. Within less than a minute of the engagement starting, our men are easily being overwhelmed by the enemy. These guys aren't just better in melee than the average Native Americans, they're way better, and they absolutely obliterate our line, pushing our men away with ease, barely any losses on their own side. And that is crumbling our formation very rapidly. The centre just goes right away. We've got archers coming in to fight in melee with some native on native action, but the enemy natives are superior and our archers are going to get out of there just after the fight starts. So overall, a really bad start to this melee. The flanks doing a little bit better with the help of the dragoons and the fact the enemy didn't focus so much on them. We seem to be putting up a better fight. The enemy starting to rout over here. Their archers not liking the fact they're just being marauded against by our cavalry. It's really going to damage them. We've also got another cavalry engagement here on the left that's actually going the enemy's way. You can see the bowmen are pretty good in melee and they're really holding up against our cavalry really well. So that's against the usual Total War logic where you just assume bowmen will always fall to cav, and here our cav are actually defeated by these men. We'll see in a moment that this is actually a replay corruption that didn't happen in the battle. At this stage, when filming the replay, I realised this replay was wrong, so we are going to have to switch over to my footage of actually playing it, which isn't quite so good, but you can see Oustra charging in here basically, and I realised there was a problem because he's charging towards the right flank. In the real battle, we charged into the centre, so there you can see the left still alive in the real battle, and there's me giving the order to Oustra to just attack through the centre, hoping to break away a couple of the enemy units so we can reform. Meanwhile, on the right flank, things kind of going okay in this instance. Our cavalry still very alive, still marauding through the enemy, those armed tribesfolk coming for another round, but my irregulars gun them down and then charge into melee themselves. So our cav there on the left flank alive in this version of the battle, so not dead as we just saw them, and our left flank is holding on. We actually defeated the enemy, so we've got units that can flank in, but Oustra dies pretty much straight away when he charges into that melee. The enemy force is of course very powerful, so not exactly unpredictable, but very unfortunate. That's going to have a massive effect on the morale of our men and stop me probably from breaking through the centre once again. The loss of a very promising general could also signal the loss of a very important battle. General! General! Get him out of there! Pull him out! Make way! Oh God! Adam, can you hear me? Damn those savages! Get them back! Get them back! Give us some space here, come on! We need to get him out of here. Rude, give me a hand. Lift him up. Ready? 3, 2... Wait, down. Push them back, I said, we need space! Fight them! What are you doing? Sorry, Adam. Looks like this just isn't your day. Come on, boys, make a line. Don't let them get close. Use your swords like you've got a pair, right? These premies can run faster than you, so no point looking back that way. Eyes forward. It's to the death now, lads. Do it for the general. Do it for honor. For a damn civilized world under God. Kill them. No, wait! Ah! Now we're going to have to fight on without Ustra, but hopefully we can still find something to salvage in this battle because we do have the flanks going our way. The centre, just a massive mosh with a melee between pretty much all of our mainline units and all of the enemies. So how that goes is going to decide things, and we can influence that by bringing more and more men in by controlling these flanks. The enemy's general retreating in the centre, denying us the chance to perhaps advance and take him out. But as I say, the flanks okay, especially with our regulars gunning down the enemy and our cav still working hard against the enemy's melee units, getting pretty damaged though actually, just because they take so many losses in each melee they go into thanks to the enemy's high stats that they can't just maraud around getting rid of those bowmen forever. So now a tiny bit later, the melee in the centre is starting to go our way. I'm pulling units out to go and hit others who are providing supporting attacks, but the enemy's main body actually routs in the centre, and that's going to turn things around. Not to say they didn't kill the vast majority of my men before they routed, but our men are still under control, and that's going to give us the advantage. The survivors can now run down the enemy's survivors and start forming up to try and take out what is now just a quite small force left under the enemy's control, scattered about the battlefield in various places. You can see here my cavalry fighting with the archers once again, and we're actually going to lose that melee because we just don't have enough cav left. At least though the enemy getting slaughtered in the centre will turn the battle in our favour. There's my cav running away and the enemy's archers coming in to fight once again. Really, the main body of the enemy's strength is now concentrated in their general, who's taken basically no losses and has a heavy cavalry unit. So that unit's pretty much strong against every single unit in my army, so we need to just overwhelm them. I'm using artillery to try and damage them, but it's not accurate enough. I'm using Oustra's guards to attack them, since their loss will now have no impact on the campaign map, so they're a good throwaway unit. And I'm using archers to try and damage them at range to avoid the fact the enemy probably have better melee skills than anything we can offer. I am though going to have to try and pin them down because they keep just running away, so I need someone to get into melee with them so that they'll stop, so we can then maneuver around them and either just pile more men into melee or try and get some ranged units behind them. My artillery continuing to miss. You can see they're just dodging around, doing very good maneuvers to stop my artillery actually getting them pinned down, which I think the general is scripted to do at all times. The enemy does have some routing units coming back who could potentially ruin my plan to focus on that general, but I'm using my artillery and a few half-destroyed irregular units now to target those archers there to keep them away. Meanwhile, everyone, as you can see there, is just ploughing into the general. I use some cavalry to bog him down. and then just ordered everyone to charge him into melee. Not the best idea, it would be better to shoot him, but at this point the enemy's army morale must be so low that I thought we could probably just drive them off very quickly with a melee charge. The general himself dies quite rapidly, so that is very handy. We shouldn't see too much more from them, and very soon after that a chain rout occurs of the enemy's scattered surviving units. The battle ends in what it describes as a heroic victory, but once you see the results you'll see it's anything but that. Our losses were absolutely enormous, including the loss, of course, of Oustra. Over 4,000 of the enemy killed, but over 3,000 of our men lost. Proportionally, both sides lost about the same amount of their total army. Our army at least has all of its regiments left alive, which provides a key advantage thanks to the replenishment system. The Pueblo nations immediately offer peace after this fight. With both sides pretty much destroyed, peace might be a good idea, but actually we know the enemy are out of supplies, so if we just continue the siege they will have to surrender to us, so we can still at least get something from that devastating battle. So at the start of the next turn, looking through the various bits of bad news, they're not the ones I'm interested in, there we go. Pueblo nations destroyed and Adam Ustra is dead, so we can zoom over to take a look at the situation. The Pueblo have indeed surrendered, so we now control their lands, and with every regiment left alive I can replenish this extremely damaged now army. We're making a lot of money thanks to the fact it doesn't have many troops left in it, so that's something. It'll cost me over 10,000 to get the army back. So really, we've put such a massive manpower and monetary investment into getting this region, and in the end, the question is it actually going to be worth it at all? I thought the boy had some sense. He had no right to lose those troops. At least he saved our own executioners some time, the fool. No hiding the news. Europe will know it in a few weeks, and then they will be breathing down my neck even harder. They'll think that this loss is evidence that we can't be trusted with our power, ignoring the reality that it truly shows how their withdrawal of military funding leaves us weak. No sense of integrity at all, those stadtholders. It would be better if the homelands had their own company to sort these matters out, with men of experience and good judgment, able to apply their skills without begging the brainless common folk to make it so. Might even be worth writing to the old King Willem on this matter. On the eastern front, that Ottoman army that Vos was going for has snuck around there to the southwest. I think it's going to go and raid all of my stuff, so that's pretty annoying, and I'm not going to bother stopping it with the main force. I'll just let them do the damage and recruit a couple of units to go and finish them off later on. Vos has more important things to do. We can go straight to Belgrade, where there's only a small Ottoman force inside. And once again they actually surrender as Vos approaches. So that's fantastic news. Another nice capture from the Ottomans, and that capture actually cuts off the route of those Polish armies into Ottoman territory. They can still get in if they go around to the east, but it's definitely going to slow them down. So in terms of this being a land grab, that's a particularly important move to have made. So now I'm going to be doing a little bit of fiddling with the tax rate back here in Amsterdam. What I want to see is whether it's going to be possible to anger the middle class so much that we could have a rebellion. There's a lot of forces here in the United Provinces who would like a middle class rebellion because the middle class would demand the reinstatement of a king, and a king might just be what our now global empire needs to prevent it being mixed up with trying to organise itself between various companies and provinces and stadtholders. So after checking that and seeing that it was actually quite difficult to do, I'm here trying to take out these imams of the Ottomans, failing because they're actually really hard to kill with rakes, but we're going to need to get rid of them eventually if we want this place to ever stop becoming Islamic. Moving on, Spain once again come to me with an absolutely outrageous peace deal. That goes out the window. The Polish seem to change their strategy for advancing on the Ottomans. They start going to that port to the southwest of Vienna, so they're going to bypass my territory by sea, it seems, and that's probably a good idea for them. Some of them do go east as if they're going to go around, so we'll see what they do in the future. The Ottomans don't get up to all that much, but that one unit that looked like it was going to go raiding starts moving north and gets intercepted by the forces in the settlement there, and we're able to take them out at a nice auto-resolve. They survive, but we can just hunt them down in the next turn with those same forces, so that's all fine now. Meanwhile, we're going to have a little look down here into Bulgaria. We see that Sophia has no defences, just its garrison, and there's even no armies beyond it going towards Istanbul. So, yet more Ottoman territory appears to be open for attack. So we might as well just push on and try and exploit the Ottoman weakness. There will be public order issues in Belgrade. Even exempting them from tax isn't quite enough to move out the whole army. So I decided I'd both recruit a new unit and leave one of the more damaged units behind. That way they will be okay in the next turn. But you can see Vos's army actually starting to get smaller and smaller as I keep leaving troops behind to do various things. So now only at about 75% strength as we move on to Sophia. The force inside, nothing particularly special. And once again, we get them to just surrender as we approach. So that's fantastic news. I'm going to add some roads in because the infrastructure isn't too good. These provinces we've been taking aren't really worth anything, but they are, as I mentioned earlier, cutting off the Polish. And now with that capture, the Polish have no land route into the Ottoman territory at all. So that's going to definitely slow down their advance if they are going to continue it. So that's fantastic news. Have another go at that imam there and fail once again. That's going to be a repeating pattern, I fear. In Venice, we finally got to the point where Gaydon can move out the main force, leaving some militia to keep public order. We can't actually walk though, because Poland capturing Austria means there is no longer a route into these territories Vos has been taking. So I wanted to see if they would be interested in military access. I do a fair exchange of 10 for 10, and they outright reject it, so clearly it's going to be pretty hard to convince them to let me pass, but we can just do the same strategy as them by heading to the ships to just bypass the land route entirely, and that's actually going to be a lot faster anyway. So perhaps this is for the best. So I've got this one sloop, we're all going to pack in and now find a target. I'm having a look at Athens and thinking that would be a nice place to capture. That would complement the captures that Vos has got so far. I decided to send a brig out from Alamanda's fleet to have a look at Athens. It's just got 2 units in it, plus its garrison, and the province is worth quite a lot of money. So overall, a nice and easy capture by the looks of things. It has a port, the port was undefended, and that of course means we can just swoop in with our entire army and pop it into that port right next to the settlement. So we're going to do just that. So this is actually going to break off the Ottomans' trade route that Alamanda's raiding, but not really going to be a big deal because we are definitely going to get Athens out of this because we can just immediately attack the city out of the port. And there we go, a gigantic advantage over the small and scrappy army inside. I wanted to see if they would surrender, thinking they might follow suit since so many places have surrendered, but actually they didn't. But since we have such an advantage, I'm going to go in for an auto-resolve, and the result this time was very good, just what you'd expect. Minor losses, the enemy losing 10 times more, and Athens is taken awkwardly. Just to the west there is the nation of Greece, who no longer control the region of Greece, but hopefully they won't get too annoyed about that. So we're going to repair the place up and hopefully start making some decent money off this settlement. So now we just have to attack Istanbul, and the Ottoman Empire will have been basically pushed out of Europe. This is starting to get very interesting. Now we're going to jump all the way over to India, where we're going to meet Yord Custer. He is the general for the East India Company, and he is absolutely terrible. He has loads of morale debuffs because he's a coward and a drunk, but he is the best the East India Company have, so they're going to try and make some gains using him. The plan for the invasion of India is now going to take place, and the first stage is to declare war on Mysore. These guys just have one region in India, but because they're not allied to either of the major Indian powers, we can take it and use it as a base without hopefully having to fight the entire empires around them. A tiny bit of their land is touching the sea, so we can make a landing. They don't actually have a port, so we can't make a proper landing, unfortunately. So let's make the declaration of war now. I'm not going to call in any allies. They managed to get Dagestan in on their side, but that's probably not going to have any impact. So there we go, the first Dutch troops setting foot on the Indian mainland. We will see how this new war goes in the next episode. The scheming of European ministers to direct the strength of the United Provinces against the Ottoman Empire had been so successful that now they were filled with regret. The Ottomans proved not to be the force against which the Dutch would be halted. Instead, they yielded enough territory in a single year to double the landmass of Europe that the United Provinces controlled. The rapid expansion signaled to the world that no single nation could stop the Dutch, especially while they controlled huge volumes of the world's trade. In the Eastern Hemisphere they were at their weakest, but even there a daring invasion of India, conducted by the East India Company, had promised to solidify their hold on the world even further. Thanks for watching. We'll keep hounding the Ottomans and challenge the Indians in the next episode of Sinews of War.